This is the CK650. I have no idea how to pronounce the manufacturer's name as it's just a mess of letters, so I will just refer to it as the CK650. In this video we'll be unboxing, doing a quick stock stabilizer test, stripping it down and doing a nice creamy build for a commission customer. If you like the look of the CK650 you can get it from EcoMaker using my affiliate link and discount code in the description, or you could take a look at the 75% version, the CK820, which you can get on the EcoMaker and WhatGeek websites using my affiliate links or discount codes below. So let's get out of the box. You can see that you have everything in the box that you need. You get the keyboard, a 2.4 GHz wireless dongle, an Allen key for the case screws, the USB-A to USB-C cable, and the switch and keycap puller. So let's have a listen to those stock stabilizers. So the CK650 has very impressive specifications and features for the price. My finding this was driven by the client, as he had some non-negotiable specifications and features in mind, and they needed to be achievable within his budget. The keyboard had to have a 65% layout, an aluminium case, a gasket mount, and be wireless, and I had to find this at as close to the $150 mark as possible to be able to complete the build on budget. To put that in perspective, this is $20 cheaper than the Keychron Q2, and that keyboard doesn't come with wireless capability, so I have my work cut out. It has a 65% layout with 67 keys and a rotary encoder. It has this beautiful CNC Aluminium Case in green, which was also a customer preference in terms of the colorway. In terms of dampening, the keyboard has a thin layer of EVA foam at the bottom of the case, a pour-on PCB pad on top of that, a nice thick pour-on switch mat, and plate dampening foam. It has 3 modes of connection: wired, Bluetooth 5.0 and 2.4 GHz wireless, with a switch on the bottom for switching modes. It's gasket mounted with ribbed silicone socks and a polycarbonate plate. The stabilizers are plate mounted, which is fine in a polycarbonate plate because you tend not to get any movement between the stabilizer housings and the plate with that material. It's 5-pin Hotswappable and has a south facing PCB. In terms of lighting, you have full per-key RGB and these LED bars on the sides of the case. It has a whopping 8,000 mAh battery capacity. It has a 6-degree typing angle with the rubber feet installed. These are magnetic and can be removed for a shallower typing angle. It's compatible with Windows and Mac, and you switch between modes using this switch on the bottom. It has this really useful LED bank showing caps lock, wireless mode, operating system mode, and battery life. And it's programmable with the dedicated CK650 app if you can find it. I am currently in contact with the vendor to try and find it. The CK820 app exists, so I'm confident that this one does too. For the price, this is an incredibly good specification. The only thing I can think of which has been missed is screw-in stabilizer compatibility, and I'm not too bothered about this as plate mount stabilizers tend to be fine in polycarbonate plates, as I said just now. So let's take it apart and have a look inside. On paper this is an easy disassembly with only case screws to muck about with, unless you want to disassemble the module. Of course this is only straightforward when the screws haven't been tightened by a Formula 1 pit crew using a lug nut impact wrench. These screws were so ridiculously tight, which on one hand is relatively easily done with fine thread metric screws like these, but on the other hand you just don't need to torque them this much, and the manufacturer should be using a small torque wrench to ensure they aren't over torqued. I managed to get all but one screw out, and for the first time ever, the only way I could get this keyboard apart was to drill out the stuck screw. This is also a good example of why torque screws are better than hex head screws, as torques are much less likely to round off if the screw is over torqued. Anyway, with the tight screw out, you just tilt up the module and unplug the 2 JST sockets, allowing you to lift out the module. From here you can see the case foams underneath, which are lifted out to reveal the 8,000 mAh battery, and the USB-C daughter board in the central position, which you don't see all that often. You can see here that the CNC machining on the top frame is really nice. It's also good that this has a thick bottom case and a much smaller form top frame, as I think it's less likely that you'll get reverberation between them, which requires the force brake mod to get rid of. I'm leaving the module together on this one. The reason for this is because there's a really nice thick pour-on switch mat and there is plate dampening foam, so there's really nothing for me to do that warrants taking it apart. The quality of everything is really nice. The PCB is made from FR4 glass epoxy, making it more durable and apparently giving it a more tactile sound and feel, which I need to offset with the switch selection as the client prefers a creamy sound profile. The gaskets are ribbed silicone, so should give a soft gasket feel, and I love a good polycarbonate plate. At the moment, this is my favourite plate material in terms of typing sound and feel. You can see here that the pour-on PCB dampening pad and EVA case pad are both relatively thin, but I wouldn't be surprised if having both of them in there will impede the gasket movement, given it's cut out for the hot swap sockets, but we'll check this later. Then we come on to the bottom case, and I must say it's absolutely stunning. I love the textured feel of this case, and the CNC machining is really nice given a high quality finish. I like the contoured section on the bottom, and those massive rubber feet which will add to the gasket feel. This really is a beautiful and high-end feeling case. So next I'm going to put this together and do the mods. I didn't film much of the assembly and modding, as this is a commission build and I wanted to focus on the build, not the filming. It really needs for very little, this one. The stabs don't take the Holy Mod with the pour-on Holy Mod stickers that I usually use, as they already have a tight tolerance. They are different to most stabilizers in that the angled section on the inside of the stem has a shallower angle and less depth than others. This seems to do the trick, as they don't come pre-lubed, meaning the stock sound test from earlier was with completely dry stabilizers. There was not a drop of lube in there. In the sound test to follow, I'll be showing you two different lube jobs and dampening configurations. In one, all of the stabilizers are lubed only with Krytox 205 grade 0 on the outside of the stems and the inside of the housings, and XHT BDZ on the wires. In this configuration, all the dampening included is in the keyboard. This is the EVA case pad, the pour-on PCB foam pad on top of the EVA case pad, the pour-on switch mat, and the plate foam. In the other configuration, the spacebar stabilizer is still lubed the same as above, with the XHT BDZ, but I've swapped the short stabilizers to dielectric grease instead of XHT BDZ. On this configuration, I've also removed the pour-on PCB foam. The reason I've changed out the XHT BDZ with dielectric grease on some of the stabilizers is because I find it's very temperature dependent. The viscosity of all lubes is affected by temperature, getting thicker the colder they get, and my house is pretty cold in winter, so all of my stabilizers with XHT BDZ are getting sluggish at the moment, which isn't an issue I've had with dielectric grease. Obviously the trade-off is that dielectric grease will likely settle in warmer temperatures while the XHT BDZ won't. Interestingly, the spacebar on this one didn't get sluggish with XHT BDZ, and because it sounded and felt so nice, I decided not to change it. The switches I've gone for on this one are the Affleon Tropical Waters, as these are one of the creamiest switches I've found to date. They are a linear switch with a 20mm long 68g spring, long pole POM stems, a nylon bottom housing, a polycarbonate top housing, and one of the best factory lube jobs I've seen yet. All I did with these is evened out the factory lube job to make sure they have a consistent sound and feel. The keycaps are an Azerty layout Botanical dye-sublimated PPT cherry profile set. The client obviously needed the Azerty layout and they wanted a green nature theme, so these are perfect for that. And that's about it. Let's see how it sounds. As usual, I'll finish on some thoughts. I can't tell you how glad I am that I was pushed into buying from a manufacturer that was unknown to me in order to meet a client's commission specification. It's such a cliche, but this thing really is a Keychron Q series killer. Features like wireless, the RGB sidebars, the LED bank, the high quality and more complex CNC machine job, the typing angle adjustment, and the exceptional typing sound and feel all put this way ahead of the Keychron Q series for me, which has none of those features and costs $10 more. The gasket system is effective, and you can see here in this comparison that removing the PCB foam did little in terms of increasing the movement of the gasket. Even though it doesn't look like it moves a whole lot, it is still a fairly soft gasket system, as the amount of movement and firmness aren't the same thing. When typing, even if a gasket gives 5mm, it's only removing the harshness and softening the bottom out of the switches. It doesn't give 5mm on every keystroke. I can't tell you how sad I am that I'll be parting ways with this one, but I do have the CK820 on the way, which is the 75% version of this one. I'll be putting some nice switches and a set of GMK keycaps on mine, as it's more than worth the investment, and I may even have to get a green themed CK650 for my own collection, as this one turned out just so nice. These are really nice keyboards that I highly recommend having on your shopping list if you're considering buying a Gasket Mount aluminium keyboard. And that's about it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.